Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be today. On this December the 11th, 2021, and I wanted to discuss the events overnight. Things are changing very rapidly, minute by minute by minute. And if you guys, have seen the news this morning, then you are aware that there was a very massive storm system that came through the Midwest overnight. Actually, if it stretched from, there was at least 6 states involved in this insane, massive storm, in which right now the numbers about 30 tornadoes that were reported across 6 states. Kentucky fears that there's at least 70 people that have been killed, primarily in a candle factory, but that number could rise. And I'm hearing that the number is more like 100. If you guys are in the Midwest, then you know that yesterday it was very, very warm outside. It felt like a summer day. It was actually unnaturally warm for a December. There was no need for a jacket yesterday. I mean, even here in Northeast Texas. And it's so crazy because as I would say it was maybe 11 o'clock last night, when all of a sudden it went from, I kid you not, 8, 9 o'clock, it was 73, 74, 75 degrees. And by 11 o'clock, we were down in the 40s and 50s. It got cold just like that. And that is because a cold front came through. And typically when cold fronts come behind very warm weather like that, it can trigger tornadoes. The other very scary thing about this storm system is that it struck at night. It seems like the most deadliest tornadoes typically strike at night. And that's a horrible, horrible thing because you can't see anything. All you can do is just go off of your ears. And I can tell you that it is absolutely frightening to be in a situation when you think a tornado is bearing down on you and you can do absolutely nothing. And I only say that from experience. You heard me, from experience. I've had the unfortunate experience to have survived a tornado myself. Being able to walk outside and see all the damage done around you to all the houses, the cars. I had a whole car totaled. It reminds, as soon as I woke up and I seen this breaking news, it reminded me of the Moore, Oklahoma tornado. Over 100, the Joplin, Missouri tornado. The tornado that hit southeastern Kansas and completely wiped an entire town off the map. This also struck at night, maybe about 15, 16 years ago. And we do see massive storms, especially hit the Oklahoma area every year. And we even had a very deadly tornado come through the Dallas-Fort Worth area just a couple of years ago. And it was absolutely frightening. It went through the heart of Dallas, the North Dallas area, down the 635 corridor, into Garland, into Richardson. And I kid you not, if you've never had the experience of being in one of these, the feeling couldn't be more hopeless. There's literally nothing you can do but try to find shelter in your home. Because the truth is, 9.5 out of 10 people do not have basements. They do not have tornado shelters that they can go and run to. And the other part of the coin on that is when it's 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're talking about overnight hours in the dark. People are sleeping. That's actually one of the most deadliest ways that a tornado can strike is during the night. All right. FEMA has directed a surge of federal resources.
Devastation in Mayfield, Kentucky, after a tornado ripped through that town of about 10,000 people. And Brandon Clement is a storm chaser who captured this video, and he's joining me right now on the phone. So, Brandon, as we look at these pictures, I mean, it looks like just a giant steamroller just came on through, knocking down everything in its path except for a couple of resilient buildings there, right there. This looks like a historic brick building that we're looking at right here, and your drone footage captures it. So, tell me about your experience along the way, as you were also able to capture these images.
Well, I started off in Arkansas and waited for the tornado to come up towards the I-55 corridor. I knew it was going to be fast moving, and it was going through some pretty rural areas of Arkansas. Once it crossed over the I-55, Interstate 55, just along the Arkansas-Missouri line, it crossed over about 300 yards in front of me, through a bunch of 18-wheelers and semis and a couple different roads right there. It cuts over and crosses the river into Tennessee, and then came up or went down into Arkansas and went to Leachville, and unfortunately there was a fatality there. I talked to several people, a lot of destruction there, then and made my way up into the Kentucky area. But when I got to Mayfield, it was just it's no comparison to what I'd seen so far in the past. It's complete destruction. And I mean, I see 50 to 100 tornadoes pass a year, and this is a top 2 or 3 in the last decade.
I definitely concur.
A candle factory. This is what remains of it now. Kentucky's governor says at least 50 people may have died across his state. That number, though, could reach more than 100. Listen to this.
This has been one of the toughest nights in Kentucky history, and some areas have been hit in ways that are hard to put into words.
We're seeing things that none of us have ever seen before. I went to Hurricane Katrina several years ago, and I've seen things now I didn't see then.
And the devastation is spread across several states. At least 2 people have been confirmed dead. Here in Illinois, a tornado hitting an Amazon warehouse. Still unclear how many people were inside at the time. And authorities say it could be days before they finish searching the site.
And now to Arkansas, where we know at least 1 person was killed when part of a nursing home collapsed. At least 20 others were injured, and a second person died in a nearby store. Let's go now to Mayfield, Kentucky, and CNN's Nadia Romero. Wow. Tell us what you're seeing.
Well, Emra, Boris, it is such a sad morning here in Mayfield, Kentucky, because people knew that there was devastation and they knew that this candle factory was hit hard by that tornado overnight. But as the sun came up and more people came out, you really got an idea of just how devastating that storm is. You can see behind me that there are search and rescue crews out from all over this area. Neighboring counties and neighboring cities have all come here to try to find as many people as possible. We were told about 110 people were working inside that factory overnight. Remember, we're just 2 weeks from the Christmas holiday. So there were people in there trying to get out those orders when this tornado came through. And we spoke with a man who came out here. He was looking for his wife. Him, his daughter, and many other people rushed over to this factory long before first responders were able to arrive. He said he was out here since about 10:30 last night. He had stayed out all the way through those overnight hours till the morning looking for his wife, Janine.
Hey, Janet.
Listen to
Hey,
his
Mimi.
story of trying to rescue as many people as possible, helping as much as he could,
Incredibly
but still
sad.
not being able to find his own wife.
I want to find my wife. I want to find her. I hope she's still somewhere safe. I hope she's somewhere safe. And baby, please call me soon we get connected. Please call me. I'm looking for you, baby. We've been looking for you. Me, Tamara, the kid, we all looking for you right now.
That was so hard to hear. Again, hard to hear. The first time when I spoke with him, Ivy Williams, he says that that he had been with his wife, Janine Williams, for over 30 years. They have kids, they have grandkids. They built their lives in Paducah, Kentucky, not far from here. He's trying to find his wife. He left this site, going to neighboring hospitals in different cities, trying to see if his wife showed up there. Boris, Amara.
Just gutting to hear Ivy share that with you, and knowing that he is one of many people looking for loved ones this morning. Nadia Romero, thank you so much.
All right, I want to bring in now the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear. I'm sorry that we have to speak under these circumstances, but first of all, Governor, I understand you are in Mayfield. Earlier this morning, you said there were 110 people inside this candle factory when the tornado hit. What is the latest you can tell us about what's happening there on the ground?
Well, I'm standing outside of what used to be that factory now, and it is a level of devastation that none of us have ever seen before. We have dozens of people that are out here searching, hoping. We haven't, unfortunately, had a successful rescue since about 3 a.m. There is just a huge amount of loss here and across the Commonwealth. We know we've lost at least 50 people across Kentucky. I think it's going to be closer to 100. We have half of some of our towns here in Western Kentucky that are just gone. It's hard to see.
Can you give us a sense of how many people, Governor, have been pulled from the rubble? How many survivors or bodies, sadly?
Well, that information is still coming in, and I know families are going to want to hear that news first, but we should expect to lose dozens in this facility, and it's so hard for this town and for our state. It's like nothing we've seen before. I'm actually standing here with the mayor of Mayfield too. I'd like to pass the phone to her. This is her direct community, and I know how much she and we all are hurting.
Thank you, Governor. Yes, we would love to talk to her.
Yes, my name is Kathy Onan. I'm the mayor.
Ms. Mayor, our condolences to what you are going through right now. How are you feeling? What's going through your mind as you're there on the ground looking at this destruction?
My heart is broken, but I am watching our first responders from our community, from the county, from across the state of Kentucky work so bravely to recover and rescue when they can. We are a community, we're a small community, we are a strong community, and I know that in the months to come, we will see the best of the people of this town. this is what we do. We take care of each other in bad times, and then we celebrate in good times.
Mayor Onan, if you could talk to us about what you know about this candle factory. I understand from a congressman, James Comer, that we spoke with this morning, said that this was one of the larger employers in Mayfield, Kentucky, and that many of the employees, more than 100, were inside at the time working overtime. I think he said 24/7 because this was the holiday season. Is that correct?
Yes, and this candle factory, it was begun by a woman here in town. It's a local. They don't live here now, but it was a locally owned company started, from the bare bottom. And so we are very proud of this factory. We are very
Man, that tornado. Look how wide that tornado is. You can only see it. You can only see it because of the lightning. Look at that. I've seen videos in some instances, there were actual twin vortexes on the ground at some points. They're saying a square area mile, kind of getting the top, square mile area of 250 miles of devastation. Now that is scary and frightening as hell. Wow.
At this site, and to even go house to house, I'd say door to door, but most of them aren't standing. Search for survivors in multiple counties. We'll be doing debris removal with the Guard, with our transportation cabinet, with our Division of Forestry, so we can get to places where people are in trouble. We got 2 truckloads of water on their way, and we will need many, many more. We've requested an emergency declaration from the White House. That is in process. We are told it is going to happen, and they are already sending resources our way. And we've got first responders from all over the Commonwealth coming to where they are needed the most. Mayfield is ground zero, but just up the road is the town where my family's from. It's called Dawson Springs. Only half the standing. And so we've got widespread damage through numerous counties in Kentucky. We're strong. We're going to dig out. We're going to hug our families. We're going to grieve with those that have lost them. We're going to do it.
You called this the most severe tornado event in Kentucky's history. Governor, we didn't speak with you, but we heard from you around 5 o'clock Eastern time when you held this news conference saying that this was historically devastating. Now you're on the ground. Now daybreak has happened. Now that you're seeing the damage and hearing from the people and feeling the pain, what is your reaction?
It's even worse than we initially reported. This tornado on the ground for 200 plus miles, everything in its wake is gone. Homes, businesses, government buildings, just gone. There are pieces of, industrial facilities roofed in trees. It's hard to imagine that this is even possible.
We will be praying for Kentucky and thinking of everyone impacted by these deadly tornadoes. Governor Andy Beshear, we thank you for your time. We know you have a lot of work to do, so we'll let you get to it. Thank you and all the best to you.
At least 30 tornadoes. At least 30 tornadoes.
We got Peter Alexander alongside Kristen Welker here in Washington, D.C., and we want to get right to some overnight breaking news. Devastating and deadly tornadoes ripped across the South and the Midwest in the middle of the night. Hardest hit the state of Kentucky, where a factory roof collapsed, and there are fears right now that dozens could be dead in that small community of Mayfield.
NBC's Morgan Chesky has been following the story all night long. Just a staggering death toll anticipated there. Morgan, what is the very latest?
Yeah, Peter, Kristen, good morning. And it will be a devastating day for communities in multiple states across the Southeast. We are learning more about that Mayfield, Kentucky tornado. This was a powerful storm that struck under the cover of darkness, as you can see. We know that 100 people were inside a candle factory when it struck. The governor saying at least 12 people could have perished at that one business alone. The death toll already at 50. He said it could climb even higher as more damage is seen throughout today. And this is a storm system that started in Arkansas and then made its way across multiple states overnight. We know that multiple tornadoes were reported, but National Weather Service officials are trying to determine if this was the work of a massive single tornado that caused so much damage. And as you can see, leave emergency responders still looking at this hour for potential survivors. We know that in one instance, debris was seen blown into the air as high as 30,000 feet. A nursing home in Mona Manor, Arkansas was also struck. We know at least one fatality was reported there. First responders rushing to get those elderly outside of that building safely before another potential collapse. And daylight will only bring more damage here. At this hour, you know that storm system still making its way across other states right now. This could go down, Peter, Kristen, as one of the worst storm outbreaks in December history.
And you can tell that just by looking at the scale and scope of those images, the path of destruction, just hard to fathom as we process this morning. Morgan, thank you very much for that.
Samara Theodore from our station WRC here in Washington, D.C. is tracking the severe weather threat that remains this morning. Samara, tell us what we still have in terms of a threat and what this storm looked like.
You know what? That is exactly what I want to talk about. The fact that this is still a very current and present threat, okay? Right now, we have 5 million people under a tornado watch throughout the show, stretching from parts of Alabama through Tennessee and Kentucky. I want to talk about areas like Livingston, Tennessee, where they have a tornado watch in effect right now, right on up into Monticello and into London, Kentucky. At this moment, they're still in the dark. They're 2 hours behind the East Coast. So if you do have friends that live in central Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, give them that wake up call and let them know this is not over yet. We still have the threat for not only severe weather, but also the threat for tornadoes. Now, this line of storms is going to continue to make its way to the East Coast. So we're not done yet with this along the I-81 corridor this afternoon. By the time we hit 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to see this impacting the mid-Atlantic, through the Carolinas, right on down into Georgia. Now, these storms are going to stretch as well all the way up into New England, but that severe threat stays south. So here's a look at the severe threat through today. 16 million people are at risk. We see this morning the storms that are currently moving through areas like Tennessee, including Chattanooga, Birmingham, up into parts of Kentucky, right on into Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio. That is then going to shift this afternoon, including areas like Atlanta, Charlotte, right on up into Roanoke, and here in Washington, D.C. What is possible with this? Wind gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour, and we still have the threat for isolated tornadoes as we head through the afternoon. 81 million people could be impacted by the winds alone, and that's going to be dangerous as well. We've been seeing these wind advisories going off all last night and through today. Areas in this light blue is a wind advisory, farther north, high wind warnings, 70 mile per hour wind gusts with this. So again, this is going to be following us through our Saturday afternoon and through the Saturday night on the East Coast. We're going to keep a close eye on this. Peter?
All right, Samara Theodore, thank you very much. We'll check in with you when the Today Show begins a short time from now. What's stunning about this is we get a better sense of this storm is that this tornado, one of them at least, may have extended more than 200 miles, it appears at this time, which would break a 96-year-old record that had existed in the past. Think about the length. Most of these storms, these tornadoes usually go just a matter of miles.
Yeah, it's just staggering, the path of destruction and how many structures you can see there in these videos have been impacted, have just been knocked down and completely decimated. And you think about, we are talking about the staggering death toll, Peter, but talk about the people who are still missing. Think about the number of power outages, the people who have been displaced. Governor Andy Beshear was briefing earlier today and said that even he had not been able to contact some of his own loved ones. This is an historic event that is impacting everyone in the state.
That's exactly right. And we will be following it. We'll have much more this morning on the Today Show and throughout the day on NBCnews.com, MSNBC, and of course tonight on NBC Nightly News. This has been an NBC News special report.
Thanks for watching our YouTube.
You know, it just, you never know, right? Life is so short. Life is so short. I really encourage everybody to hug their kids, you know, their family and stuff, and tell people you love them, because you never know. Until next time, y'all.